I was asked to pay for my niece's Sweet 16, so I covered everything: venue, DJ, catering. At the party, she scoffed and said, "This is so lame. You ruined everything." So I calmly walked to the DJ, shut off the music, and told the caterer to pack up. She screamed. Mom panicked. But I was already gone, with my wallet. I always thought I was an easygoing guy, the one who just wanted peace. But there comes a point where being easygoing just means being easily used. And when my own niece called me lame after I paid for her entire Sweet 16, that's when I realized silence doesn't mean weakness. It means I'm brewing something much, much bigger. So who am I? Just Andy, 34, work in IT, live a pretty quiet life in New Jersey. For years, my biggest goal was staying out of the endless drama my family seemed to thrive on. And believe me, there was always drama. My older sister, Danielle, she's the queen of it all. 38, single mom. And she has this incredible, exhausting talent for turning every tiny inconvenience into a full-blown tragedy. And every favor she ever gets, well, that just becomes something she's owed. Her daughter, my niece Maddie, is 16 now. And let's just say that apple didn't exactly roll far from the tree. I still remember Maddie when she was little, a sweet, chubby-cheeked 6-year-old. She come barreling toward me, yelling, "Uncle Andy," showing off her crayon masterpieces. But as she got older, as Danielle's particular brand of entitlement started rubbing off on her, Maddie changed. She became difficult, spoiled, the kind of kid who, when you buy her something, doesn't say thank you. She asks for the gift receipt. And Danielle? She just laughed it off. Oh, she just knows what she wants. Or the absolute worst, you don't get it, you don't have kids. That line, it used to drive me insane. No, I don't have kids, but that doesn't make me clueless about respect or gratitude or, basic human decency. Still, deep down, I really care about Maddie. And I knew Danielle was usually struggling, so I quietly stepped in, paid for school supplies, sent Maddie a little extra cash on her birthday, helped fix their car when it broke down in the dead of winter. I never made a fuss, just did what I could, then went home. So you can imagine how I felt when Danielle called me one Sunday morning back in March. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind of sweet that instantly puts you on edge because you just know a bomb is about to drop. She started with the usual small talk, work, if I was still seeing that girl with the curly hair. We'd broken up 3 months earlier, something she'd have known if she actually cared. And then bam. "I need a huge favor," she purred, that lightness in her tone barely masking the razor-sharp command underneath. I sighed. I already knew. "What is it?" I asked, my voice flat. "It's Madison's Sweet 16, coming up in May. You know how much she's dreaming about it. I just want to make it special for her, but with bills and everything." She let the sentence hang. Of course, waiting for me to fill in the blanks. "How much are we talking?" I asked, pinching the bridge of my nose. "Oh, nothing crazy," she rushed to say. "Just a venue deposit, maybe the DJ, and well, catering's kind of pricey. So, just those." I swear I almost laughed. "Danielle, that's not nothing crazy. That's the entire party." She dismissed it with a wave. "Oh, come on, Andy. You make good money. You're not even using it for anything big. No kids, no mortgage. Maddie would be so happy. You'd be the best uncle ever." That last bit, best uncle ever, it stung. Not because I needed the title, but because it was dangled there, a pathetic carrot. Like my worth, my place in this family, was solely measured by how much I was willing to pay. And the worst part? I said yes. I told myself it was for Maddie. That maybe this time she'd cherish the memory. That maybe even if Danielle didn't say thank you, Maddie would. So I dove in, covered the venue, a nice little event hall outside of town. Found a great local DJ who had all the teen-friendly playlists. Even arranged the catering myself. Italian buffet, Maddie's favorite. For a while, things just chugged along. Danielle, of course, barely kept me in the loop, but I just chalked it up to her usual chaotic nature. I'd check in occasionally. "Is Maddie excited?" She'd give me these vague, dismissive answers. "Oh, yeah, she's thrilled." Or, "We're keeping some surprises, don't worry." I should have worried. I really, really should have. The first undeniable red flag hit me 2 weeks before the party. An invitation arrived in the mail. Not a call, not a text. A stiff little envelope, glittery gold cursive. "You're invited to Madison's Sweet 16, a night of glamour." Inside, There were dress code rules, Instagram hashtag suggestions, and then at the very bottom, a little note that made my jaw clench. Hosted by Danielle Walker. No mention of me. Not a single word about the thousands of dollars I was spending. Just Danielle. I tried to dismiss it, tell myself, Andy, you don't need credit. But deep down, it just felt wrong. It burned. I called Danielle later that day. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Got the invite. Looks nice. Thanks, she chirped, completely oblivious. I noticed my name wasn't on there, just wondering why. There was a beat of silence, then a dismissive little laugh. Oh, come on, Andy. That would have been weird. You're her uncle, not her dad. Ouch! That hit me harder than I expected. My voice tightened. Still, I said, I did pay for pretty much everything. Another pause, longer this time. Are you saying you regret helping? She asked, suddenly cold. No. I shot back. I just thought. But she cut me off with another dismissive chuckle. You're overthinking it. Maybe I was. Maybe I wanted something I shouldn't have. Recognition, gratitude, something. But I tried to let it go. I really did. The second red flag? That came the night before the party. I went to the venue, just to check in with the manager, make sure everything was set. While I was there, I overheard Danielle talking to the decorator she'd hired. Someone I didn't even know existed. Oh, no, it's all covered. She was saying, loud enough for me to hear. My brother? Total pushover. He doesn't even ask questions, just hands over the credit card. I froze. My blood ran cold. My stomach dropped. In that precise moment, I felt something shift inside me. Something tiny sharp, like a hairline crack, finally appear in a glass I've been holding together for years. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I just turned and walked away. I sat in my car for a good 15 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, her voice replaying in my head. Asterisk, pushover. Doesn't ask questions. Just hands over the credit card. Asterisk, I wanted to believe she didn't mean it. That maybe she was just venting, exaggerating for effect. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd been their bankroller for too long, and Danielle? She didn't see my help as kindness. She saw it as her due. Still, I showed up to the party the next evening. On time. Dressed up. Smiling. I told myself I'd get through it. Smile for the pictures. Watch Maddie have her special moment. Then quietly slip out. I didn't want to ruin anything. Not for her. But then came the moment that changed everything. That final, absolute straw. When it happened, when Maddie turned to me in front of all her friends, rolled her eyes, and said those words that would echo in my mind for days, I knew something had to break. And I was done letting it be me. The ballroom looked like it was ripped straight from Pinterest. Gold streamers, soft purple lighting, those obnoxious oversized glitter balloons, and a giant 16 centerpiece made of faux roses that Danielle definitely couldn't have afforded without me. People were still trickling in when I arrived, trying to keep a smile on my face and my tie from strangling me. I didn't want to be there. Not really. I just wanted to blend in, clap when appropriate, grab some cake, and escape. But as soon as I stepped inside, Danielle spotted me. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She marched over, wine glass in hand, already halfway empty. Oh, good, she said, brushing imaginary dust on my jacket like I was a 6-year-old before church. You didn't wear sneakers. I was worried. Hello to you too? I mumbled, pulling back. She ignored me. Listen, can you keep an eye on the buffet for a bit? I told the caterer to delay the pasta until 7:30, and I need to help Maddie with her makeup. She's freaking out about her eyeliner. I just blinked. The caterer? That's not really. But she was already walking away. No, thanks for everything. No, how are you? Just orders. Like I was one of her hired staff. I sighed, made my way to the buffet table, and stood there awkwardly next to a tower of mini quiches, feeling like misplaced extra in some terrible soap opera. A few guests gave polite smiles, but most ignored me. They had no idea who I was. Why would they? Danielle hadn't introduced me to anyone. 10 minutes later, Maddie made her grand entrance. She floated down the staircase in a pale pink satin dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill, surrounded by her friends and 2 teenage boys who looked either hired as party motivators or just there to look pretty. Phones flashed. She posed. She twirled. She looked like a star. And she didn't even glance in my direction. I told myself it was fine. She was nervous, overwhelmed. It was her night. I stuck to the sidelines, nursing my soda, trying to find a spot where I didn't feel like a ghost. The DJ cranked up some top 40. Kids started dancing, and for a moment I thought maybe I could just get through this. Then came the speeches. Danielle grabbed the mic first. Her voice trembled as she talked about how proud she was of her little girl, how much she'd sacrificed to raise her alone, how tonight was a culmination of years of hard work. She choked up a little, and I'll admit, it almost got to me until she said, "I did all of this for you, Maddie. Every detail, every cent. All me." I stood frozen, one hand clenching my drink so hard I thought the plastic cup might shatter. My ears buzzed. My face felt hot. I didn't need a standing ovation, but that was a lie. A public, brazen lie. And Maddie just beamed at her like it was gospel. Then Maddie took the mic. She launched into this breathy, clearly rehearsed speech about how much her mom meant to her. Fine, expected. But then she started talking about how she was so glad we could pull this off on our own, and how, even when people doubted us, we did it anyway. That's when it hit me. The looks, the phrasing, the way her eyes flicked across the room, landing on me for just a split second before sliding away like I didn't even exist. It was deliberate. And Danielle? She was grinning behind her like the proud director of a Broadway production she hadn't paid a dime to produce. I just walked outside. Didn't even think. I just needed air. I stood near the parking lot, breathing in the cool spring night, trying to hold myself together. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't. That wasn't who I was. But something was boiling under the surface, a pressure I couldn't ignore anymore. I had spent almost $6,000 on this party. $6,000 of my hard-earned savings. And not once had either of them said, "Thank you." Not when I booked the venue. Not when the checks cleared. Not even when the lights came up and the music played. And now I was being erased. I stared up at the sky, letting the cold seep into my skin. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my cousin Qley, who was somewhere inside the ballroom. "Hey, Maddie just made a joke about your car. Something about how tacky it was for a grown man to drive a Honda to a Sweet 16. That was it. That was the moment the boiling cracked the pot. I walked back inside. The room was alive again. Music thumping. Kids dancing. Parents sipping wine. Phones flashing. Maddie was on the dance floor, taking selfies, waving sparklers. Danielle stood near the bar, laughing at some man's joke. Not a care in the world. I didn't go to them. I stood near the corner, watching. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. I thought maybe I'd calm down, that I'd come to my senses. But instead, I watched Maddie approach the DJ booth and say something. The DJ laughed. She said something else, and he leaned in closer. Then I saw it, her rolling her eyes and the unmistakable words. Asterisk, this is so lame. My uncle ruined everything. Asterisk, I didn't even need to hear it. I could read her lips. And that was it. I didn't feel angry anymore. No, I felt clear. I stepped forward, quietly, calmly, walked right up to the DJ. "Hey," I said, handing him a folded bill. "I'm the one who paid for this. You're done for the night." He blinked. "Seriously?" I nodded. "Cut the music." He hesitated, but the money in his hand made the decision easy. Within seconds, the music died mid-beat, and the crowd let out a collective groan of confusion. I turned away before the murmuring could escalate, walked straight to the caterer, who was restocking the pasta trays. "Hi," I said. "I need you to pack everything up. Party's over. You'll still be paid in full. Just wrap it up." The man stared, clearly confused. "But we were told." "I'm the one who hired you," I said, my voice steady. "Wrap it up." As they started moving, collecting trays and clattering silverware, a hush fell over the entire room. People looked around, trying to understand. That's when Danielle stormed over. "What are you doing?" she hissed, face flushed. "Why is the music off? Why is the food?" "Andy, asterisk, what are you doing?" Asterisk. I looked her dead in the eye. "I funded this party, Danielle." "Not you. Me." She scoffed. "Are you seriously throwing a tantrum because your name wasn't on a stupid invite?" "No," I said, my voice flat firm. "I'm doing this because your daughter just told a room full of people I ruined her night. After I spent thousands of dollars to give her this night. After being treated like hired help. After hearing you brag about manipulating me." Maddie appeared beside her then, red-faced, mascara starting to streak. "Uncle Andy, what the heck? You're embarrassing me." I turned to her, something heavy in my chest finally cracking. "You know what, Maddie? Maybe someone should embarrass you. Because clearly, You haven't been taught what gratitude looks like. I didn't do this to be your hero. I did it because I thought it mattered. Because I remembered who you used to be. But you've made it crystal clear. You don't care. Not about me. Not about any of this. She just gawked at me like I'd slapped her. People were staring now, whispering, phones half raised like they weren't sure if this was part of the entertainment. Danielle grabbed my arm. You're ruining everything. I shook her hand off, gently but firmly. No, you ruined it. You taught your daughter to value things over people, and now she doesn't know the difference. Then, without another word, I turned, walked out the ballroom doors, and didn't look back. I didn't need to, because behind me, I heard Maddie start screaming. And Danielle? She was finally the one left picking up the pieces. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because what came next, the fallout, the calls, the gossip, the twist I really didn't see coming. Asterisk, that's asterisk when the real story began. And trust me, it got messy. When I walked out of that ballroom, I didn't feel triumphant. Not at all. I felt hollow, the kind of emptiness that doesn't hit you all at once, but creeps in slowly, hour by hour, like a cold fog rolling into a field. That night, I didn't even go home. I just drove around and around town until the gaslight came on. Then I parked in a near-empty diner lot and just sat there, staring at my hands on the steering wheel. Maddie's voice kept echoing in my head. Asterisk, this is so lame. You ruined everything. Asterisk in Danielle's. Asterisk, you're ruining everything. Asterisk, as if I was a villain. As if I had committed some personal crime by refusing to be used. When I finally made it home, the silence was deafening. I didn't even turn on the lights. Just dropped my keys and sank onto the couch. I must have fallen asleep with my shoes on, because I woke up the next morning to a dozen missed calls. 4 from Danielle, 1 from Maddie. The rest were from family. I stared at my phone for a long time before I dared unlock it. There was a text from my mother, short and sharp. Call me when you've calmed down. That was it. No question if I was okay. No acknowledgement of what had even led to that moment. Just a reprimand. A few hours later, my phone rang again. It was my Aunt Laura. She was the only one in the family who ever spoke to me like a human being instead of a resource. I braced myself as I answered. I heard what happened, she said softly. Did you hear the whole story? I asked. I heard Danielle's version, she admitted. But I know you, Andy. You're not the type to blow up unless something's been simmering for a long, long time. I let out a shaky breath. I wasn't trying to ruin her party, Aunt Laura. I couldn't stand there and pretend anymore. I believe you, she said. That simple statement meant more than she probably knew. Still, the fallout was immediate. Danielle unleashed a wave of passive-aggressive posts on Facebook, vague enough not to name me directly, but perfectly obvious to anyone who'd been there. Asterisk, imagine thinking you can buy love. Sad. Asterisk, she wrote in one. Another had a photo of Maddie looking miserable with the caption, asterisk, she deserved better. She always does. Asterisk, people started picking sides. My cousin Qley messaged me, furious with Danielle. She's rewriting the whole thing, Qley wrote, telling everyone you planned it as a power play, that you embarrassed her on purpose. It felt like high school drama, but wrapped in decades of family dysfunction. I tried to stay silent, didn't post anything, didn't defend myself online. I didn't even answer Danielle's calls. What was there left to say? I'd said my piece. But my silence only seemed to make them angrier. And slowly, agonizingly, I began to realize something truly painful. Most of my family wasn't mad that I'd been disrespected. They were mad that I'd stopped playing along. For years, I quietly picked up the tab, filled the gaps, smiled to the disrespect. And the moment I dared to set a boundary, I became the problem. It hurt more than I ever expected. One by one, family events started happening without me. I wasn't invited to my nephew's birthday. No one mentioned the family barbecue in July. Even Thanksgiving at my mother's house, a tradition for over a decade. I was accidentally left off the group text. When I finally confronted her, she just said, well, I assumed you wouldn't want to come after the drama. The drama she never asked me about. She didn't respond. By December, I was the ghost of the family. And honestly, it nearly broke me. I stopped going out, stopped calling anyone. Work became a blur. I did the bare minimum, logged off, and just stared at the wall most evenings. The holidays were the absolute worst. Christmas Day, I spent alone, eating microwave lasagna and watching sitcom reruns. I didn't laugh once. I kept agonizing. Was I wrong? Did I go too far? Should I have just shut up and smiled like always? The self-doubt was a loud, constant hum in my head. Until one night, I found myself scrolling through old pictures on my phone. Photos from Maddie's earlier birthdays. Me, taking her to the zoo. Baking cupcakes with her in my tiny apartment kitchen. There was one, she was 9, wearing a paper crown I'd made for her with printer paper and glitter glue, grinning like she'd just been handed the moon. She used to love me. She used to see me. When did that stop? I couldn't pinpoint the exact moment, but I knew it wasn't sudden. It was a slow, insidious erosion. One that started the day Danielle realized she could use my kindness like a debit card. Swipe, spend, repeat, never worrying about the balance. And the brutal truth? I'd let it happen. That realization was painful, yes, but it was also incredibly clarifying. If I was going to rebuild anything, it couldn't be with people who only saw my worth when it benefited them. So I started small. I deep cleaned my apartment, top to bottom. Got rid of boxes I'd ignored for months. Donated clothes I hadn't worn in years. Replaced my old, sagging couch, the one that sagged like my spine after family dinners. I started buying groceries and cooking real meals again, not just frozen junk. I even signed up for a weekend woodworking class, something I'd always wanted to do. Each little thing felt insignificant at first, but together, they added up. At work, I started volunteering for projects again, really getting involved. My manager noticed. She pulled me onto a big, challenging account, and by March, I'd earned a surprise promotion. It came with a raise, sure, but more importantly, it came with respect. My coworkers stopped seeing me as just a quiet IT guy and started asking for my input. That did something to me. It reminded me I wasn't invisible. Outside of work, things were slowly changing too. I reconnected with Nate, an old friend from college. We'd lost touch years ago, but he'd actually reached out after seeing one of Danielle's cryptic posts and putting 2 and 2 together. She's always been like that, he said, not unkindly. But you've always been solid. It was so refreshing to be around someone who didn't expect anything from me, beyond just being present. Through Nate, I met Emily, his sister-in-law. She was warm, sharp, and had a laugh that somehow made you forget how heavy the world could be. We hit it off slowly, organically. No games, no pressure. Just 2 people figuring it out, one genuine conversation at a time. By early summer, I found myself waking up with purpose again. There were still moments, of course. Quiet nights where the loneliness crept in or family memories poked at old wounds, but they didn't consume me like before. Then, one evening in June, I got a letter in the mail, actual paper, from Maddie. The handwriting was messy, the envelope addressed in all caps. Inside was a single page. No greeting, no signature. Just, asterisk, you humiliated me. Everyone saw. I don't care if you paid. It was my night. You ruined it. I hope you're happy. Asterisk, I stared at it for a long, long time. Not because it hurt me anymore, but because I finally saw it for what it truly was. Undeniable proof that Danielle had passed down more than just bad habits. She'd passed down her entitlement, like a dark family heirloom, and now it was Maddie's. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But then, a week later, something totally unexpected happened. I ran into my younger cousin Sam at the hardware store. He was grabbing tools for a home reno project. We hadn't talked in almost a year. He smiled when he saw me. Hey man, I've been meaning to text you. I raised an eyebrow, wary. He looked sheepish. Just want to say, I think you did the right thing at the party. I saw it. I saw how they treated you. No one wanted to admit it out loud. But they were awful, and honestly, it needed to happen. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. He continued, You're not the villain, Andy. You were just the first one to stop playing along. That takes guts. That was the first time anyone in the family had said out loud, directly to my face. And maybe it didn't fix everything. Maybe it didn't erase the damage. But it reminded me I wasn't crazy. That standing up for myself didn't make me wrong. It made me free. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like I could truly breathe again. But I wasn't done. Oh no, because what happened next, what Danielle tried to pull when the money finally stopped flowing, that was something I never saw coming. And this time, I wasn't just walking away. I was making a plan that would change everything. By the time autumn rolled around, I'd actually reached a place of cautious peace. I wasn't thriving in some inspirational movie montage kind of way, but I was standing straighter, breathing deeper, and more importantly, I'd stopped looking back. Mostly. But then came the call. It was late September. I was on my apartment balcony, sipping coffee, watching the leaves turn, when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months. Danielle. I stared at it, my thumb hovering. Part of me just wanted to block the number and move on. But curiosity, that old stubborn itch, got the better of me. I answered. Her voice was tight, controlled. "Hey, Andy." "Wow," I said, leaning back in my chair. "You still have my number." She ignored the jab. "I need to talk to you. It's important." Classic. That's what people always say when they want something. There was a pause. She was clearly used to the old version of me, the one who crumbled the moment she raised her voice or pulled out the guilt card. But that Andy had left the building a long time ago. She exhaled sharply. "It's about Maddie. She's struggling." Struggling. I repeated, my voice flat. "You mean academically? Emotionally? Spiritually? Or just not getting things handed to her anymore?" "She's been depressed." Danielle snapped. "After the party, things haven't been the same. She's pulled away. Her grades are slipping. She barely talks to me. I think she blames me." I stayed silent, letting that last sentence just hang in the air. Good. She keeps saying it was supposed to be the best night of her life. Danielle went on, her voice brittle, and she says I embarrassed her, that I let it all fall apart. "You did?" I asked, my tone dangerously calm. "I'm trying, okay?" Her voice cracked then, but I don't know how to fix it. That caught me off guard. She wasn't calling to yell. She wasn't calling to guilt trip me into writing another check. She was calling because she genuinely didn't know what to do. And that, oddly enough, scared me more than her usual nonsense. I thought, maybe, she hesitated, maybe you could talk to her? I blinked. "Me? She used to look up to you," she said quietly. Asterisk before everything got twisted. Before you twisted it asterisk. I thought, but I didn't say it. Instead, I said, "I'll think about it." We hung up, and I sat there for a long time. That conversation stirred something I buried deep. I hadn't stopped loving Maddie. Not really. I hated what she'd become, yes. But I also knew kids weren't born selfish. They were taught, trained, molded. And if she was finally starting to question that mold, maybe there was hope. But I wasn't just going to waltz in and offer comfort. No. If Danielle wanted my help, if Maddie wanted my time, then it had to mean something. That night, I opened a new note on my phone and started writing. A plan was forming. Not revenge in traditional sense. No yelling, no public shaming, no taking away a birthday cake. No, this time it would be quiet, strategic, surgical. I was done playing the victim. This time, I was going to teach a lesson, and I wouldn't have to lift a single voice to do it. The first piece of this intricate puzzle came from a contact at work, Sarah. She's one of our project managers, and she happened to be friends with a local nonprofit director. They ran mentorship programs for at-risk teens, kids who never had a stable home, or reliable income, or a fraction of the opportunities Maddie had simply taken for granted. I called in a favor. "Could you use a few extra volunteers?" I asked, "Even just once a week?" She was thrilled. Absolutely. Especially someone with tech experience. The very next week, I showed up at their downtown office. I met a group of teenagers who had survived more in their 16 years than Maddie had in her whole life. And yet, they were polite, curious, grateful. They asked questions. They listened. They tried. And when I got home that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. These kids didn't care about glitter balloons or Instagram aesthetics. They wanted to learn, to build, to matter. I kept going back every week, teaching basic coding skills, helping with resumes, showing them how to navigate job portals. I wasn't just helping them. I was sharpening my own edge, because the second piece of the puzzle came through those connections, specifically a girl named Isla. She was 17, brilliant, and already interning at a local event management company. The same company, it turned out, that sometimes worked with Danielle's go-to decorator. When I told her my last name, she just smirked. "Oh, your sister? She's the one who demanded the balloon arch be more inspirational, right? My boss still talks about it." Bingo. We started chatting after sessions. I told her pieces of the story, not everything, just enough for context. Isla wasn't just smart. She was incredibly observant, and she had opinions. She's used to controlling the narrative, Isla said. So take that away from her. Show people the truth, but make it seem like they discovered it. That line stuck with me. Over the next month, I began gathering threads. Every receipt, every email, every text message, every bank transfer, every single contribution I'd ever made to Danielle or Maddie over the past 5 years. School payments, grocery money, rent coverages, party expenses. I put it all in a meticulously organized folder. But I didn't just keep it for myself. I started talking, casually, to mutual friends, distant relatives, acquaintances who had always accepted Danielle's version of events because they'd never heard mine. I didn't rant. I didn't vent. I just let them see. Oh, yeah, I'd say. I covered Maddie's school fees a year. Danielle was behind on rent. Didn't she tell you? Yeah, the Sweet 16 was, what, $5,700? I paid every cent. No big deal. I just wish they'd told the truth. That was all it took. Because when people think you're generous, they like you. But when they realize someone else lied about your generosity, they turn hard. By December, the family grapevine wasn't just buzzing. It was roaring. I still wasn't being invited to events. No. But this time, neither was Danielle. She said Andy ruined Maddie's birthday. One cousin would tell another, but I just found out he paid for the whole thing. What kind of person lies about something like that? She's always been like that. It's just the first time Andy stood up to her. And then came the third piece. Maddie. Danielle had been right. Something had shifted. Maddie's self-assured confidence was cracking. The perfectly curated social media posts were slowing down. She wasn't posting selfies with captions like, "Queen of everything" anymore. Instead, there were photos of sunsets, long introspective captions about feeling misunderstood, and once, a post that said, "Asterisk, it's weird when you realize the person who always had your back isn't picking up the phone anymore." Asterisk, that one hit me harder than I expected. But I didn't comment, didn't like it, didn't reach out. I let her sit with it. Until one afternoon in January, I got an email from Maddie. Not a text, not a call. An actual email, sent from her school account. Subject line, "For what it's worth." It read, "Uncle Andy, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I wouldn't blame you. But I wanted to say I've been thinking about what happened. About everything. You were right. I was awful. I thought if I acted like I didn't care, then none of it would hurt. But it does. It really does. I miss you. Not just the money or the gifts or the parties. You. I didn't realize how much you did until everyone stopped showing up. And now I don't know how to fix it. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know." Maddie. I read it twice. Then again, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't overflowing with accountability, but it was honest. Or, at least it was trying to be. Still, I didn't respond. Not yet, because the final piece wasn't in place. And when it finally arrived, it came with an invitation. A birthday party for Danielle, her 40th, thrown by Maddie. She was trying, in her own way, to make amends. And this party? This was going to be my stage. Not for vengeance, for revelation. What I had planned. Let's just say no one was ready for it. Especially not Danielle. The invitation itself arrived in early February. White linen paper, gold-foiled edges, a thin cursive font so delicate I could barely read it. It smelled faintly of overpriced perfume. The envelope was sealed with wax, because of course it was. Inside, the invitation read, "Please join us for an elegant evening celebrating Danielle Walker's 40th birthday. Formal attire required. Hosted with love by her daughter, Madison." I stared at it for a long, heavy moment. The irony settled in my lap. Danielle was the undisputed queen of appearances, and this invite was just her latest throne. But the fact that Maddie was hosting it told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just a birthday party. It was an image restoration campaign. Maddie wanted redemption. Danielle wanted relevance. And they needed me to play along to get it. I almost didn't go. Almost. But then I remembered Maddie's email. The soft cracks in her armor. The slow, inevitable unraveling of Danielle's carefully manicured kingdom. And more importantly, that folder I'd been compiling over the last several months. Every receipt, every email, every quote, every screenshot, every single time they twisted my kindness into an obligation and used it like a crowbar. This was it, the opportunity I'd been waiting for. To remind them I wasn't their wallet anymore. To show them that silence doesn't mean weakness. And to let the truth walk into that party, wearing polished shoes and a tie. I RSVP'd yes. And then I started making calls. The first call was to Isla, that brilliant intern who became a real insider at the event company. She'd since moved on to a big PR firm, but she still had friends on the inside. I asked if she could help me sponsor a small gift for the party, discreetly. Something elegant, I said, professional, the kind of thing Danielle would never turn down in front of a crowd. Isla just chuckled. Got it. And what's the catch? There's a card inside, I replied. She laughed out loud. Oh, this is going to be good. I also called Sarah at the nonprofit. I asked if she'd be willing to send a representative to speak for a few minutes at the party. A short speech. Nothing dramatic. About what? She asked cautiously. About gratitude, I said, and seeing the people who work behind the scenes. She hesitated. Andy, are you sure you want to do this? I'm not out for blood, Sarah. I replied, just truth. That part was crucial to me. I didn't want a shouting match. I didn't want revenge that tasted like bitterness. I wanted clarity. For Maddie, for me, and even, if she was capable of it, for Danielle. The night of the party arrived like a slow-moving, elegant storm. It was held at a swanky boutique ballroom downtown, walls lined with gold-trimmed mirrors, soft amber lighting. A hired string quartet played something classical near the entrance. Guests arrived in sleek black suits and glittering gowns. I wore a crisp navy suit, pressed and clean, with a silver tie Maddie had once given me for Christmas when she was 9. I hadn't worn it in years. As I walked in, heads turned, not because I was impressive or important, but because I was unexpected. The black sheep had arrived, and everyone seemed to be holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen. Danielle was easy to spot. She stood under a massive floral arch, bathed in candlelight, sipping champagne from a tall crystal flute, laughing that high, slightly too loud laugh she reserved for commanding attention. Her dress was shimmering, floor-length, the kind you wear when you need the entire room to know you still matter. Maddie was beside her in black velvet, her makeup dramatic, her expression guarded. When she saw me, something flickered across her face. Regret? Relief? I couldn't tell. But she gave me a small nod, and I nodded back. I was handed a glass of champagne by a passing server, and I drifted toward the far end of the room, staying on the periphery, just watching. Then came the speeches. First, Maddie stepped up. Her voice was calm, but shaky around the edges. Thank you all for coming, she began. Tonight means a lot to my mom and to me. This past year has been difficult for us, but also full of lessons about love, about family, about humility. She glanced at me, briefly. We don't always get it right, she continued, but we keep trying. And tonight, I just want to celebrate the woman who's taught me so much, who's always been there. Danielle beamed, misty-eyed, soaking in applause as Maddie handed her the mic. Thank you, darling, Danielle said, her voice thick with emotion. You've grown into someone I'm so proud of. She turned to crowd, that old, polished charm returning like a well-worn jacket. I've lived a lot in 40 years. Raised a daughter on my own, fought through struggles, found my strength, and tonight I feel surrounded by love. She raised her glass to perseverance and to knowing who your true people are. Everyone clapped, and that's when the MC stepped forward, his voice booming. Before dinner is served, we'd like to welcome a very special guest who asked to say a few words tonight on behalf of someone who's made a difference in the lives of many. Danielle blinked, clearly confused. Then Sarah walked up the mic. She was graceful, confident, warm. And she didn't mention me by name once. She spoke about the quiet volunteers, the people who show up without fanfare, who give without asking for praise or the spotlight. She talked about how life isn't always about who shouts the loudest, but who listens hardest, how some people build bridges while others just pose for photos in front of them. A ripple of discomfort went through the crowd. People looked around nervously. Danielle stiffened. When Sarah finished, she nodded graciously and stepped down. And then the MC said, "And now, before we dine, a surprise gift delivered earlier today by one of Danielle's longtime friends." A server wheeled out a wrapped box onto the stage. Elegant, tasteful, classy, the MC announced. Danielle, now visibly rattled, but trying desperately to maintain her composure, approached the box. She peeled away the wrapping. Inside was a shadow box. At first, it looked like a collage, but as she turned it toward the audience, everyone could see it clearly. Printouts of payment confirmations, emails of thanks left unsent, party receipts, and a large, stark white envelope in the center, boldly marked, to the woman who always takes credit, and the girl who forgot what real love looks like. A collective gasp went through the crowd. Danielle turned absolutely pale. She yanked the envelope open, her hands trembling, and pulled out the final page, a letter I'd written weeks ago. I hadn't planned to read it aloud myself, but the MC, sensing the drama, handed me the mic anyway. I walked the front of the room, slow and steady, like the stunned silence was my own personal red carpet, and I read. There's a version of this story where I remained the fool, the pushover, the uncle who paid, who smiled, who vanished. But that story ends tonight. I gave without asking for thanks. I supported without demanding credit. But somewhere along the way, kindness became a currency, and I was bankrupting myself to buy acceptance I never truly received. Danielle, you taught Maddie to pose before she learned to thank, to expect before she learned to earn. And Maddie, somewhere between glitter filters and group chats, you lost a memory of a man who once built you paper crowns. But this isn't about guilt or shame. It's about clarity. It's about letting the silence speak louder than applause. I'm not asking for anything. I'm leaving this behind, not to hurt, but to release, and to remind you that some bridges aren't burnt. They're walked away from. I closed the letter, placed it gently back into the shadow box, and handed the mic back to the MC. Then I walked off stage, through the stunned silence, through the hushed whispers and half-formed questions. Danielle stood frozen, lips parted, the letter trembling in her hands. Maddie was crying, not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet, real tears that streaked black mascara down her cheeks. And I just kept walking, out the ballroom doors, into the cool night. No one followed me. Not one single person called my name. I drove home in silence. Windows down, the last echo of the string quartet fading into nothingness. And for the first time in years, I felt weightless. Not because I had won, not because I had exacted some grand revenge, but because I had finally truly let go. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes it's best served with a clean exit, a steady heart, and a firmly locked wallet.